Hello, welcome to cheereasy.com IELTS Task 1 Writing Lessons. In this first lesson of the series, we're going to look at paraphrasing the title of Task 1 essays. Typical Task 1 essays are bar charts and tables. There are two examples. So, when you actually commence the writing part of the essay after you've planned, the first thing you'll have to do is paraphrase the title of the essay. Now, as we know, paraphrasing involves using different words and expressions, but to give the same meaning of the title. Here are some of the steps that I advise you to take to make it easier. So the first thing you do is look at the title and look at the words that you cannot change, because you will need to use them. Again, more advice, don't spend too long on this. Don't sit there for minutes and minutes thinking how to change them. If you can't change them, just use them. Second thing, focus on the words you can change. Pretty obvious. The third thing, which I think more importantly makes it easier, is to break the title down into chunks. Then use different methods to paraphrase. So we're going to use a sample bar chart about education to go through the process. So the title of the essay is, the chart below shows the number of men and women in further education in Britain in 3 periods and whether they were studying full or part-time. So this task is about students. It's a bar chart about students. So the step 1, we look at the words we can't change. Usually numbers, dates and specific names cannot be changed, but most other things can be changed. So the examples I've given you here are the chart. Because it's a chart, you don't need to change that. Britain could be changed, but don't worry too much about it. It could be called Great Britain, or possibly even the UK, even though they're slightly different. Education can be changed, but you want a natural word. There are things like schooling, pedagogy, tuition, but they don't really fit as well as education. So it can be changed, but don't spend too much time thinking about it. Full-time, part-time. Yes, they can be changed, but again, they can be left. So we look at the words that we can change. In blue, shows. You should always change the first verb. This is the first verb after the chart or table or whatever. Always change this. The number of men, women, further, 3 periods, whether they were studying. So what we've done is we've broken it down into sections, which I'll talk about in a minute. Do not focus on prepositions. You can work them into the expressions. In, on, and, in, off. Sorry, and is a conjunction, but conjunctions and prepositions, don't worry too much about them. Just work them, change the phrase and use the prepositions or conjunctions that fit in that phrase. Okay, as you saw in the example, you create expressions. Do not do each word individually. You can't do each word, so break it down into sections. So here are some methods of paraphrasing. So number 1, word formation. Change the word from one form to another. Example, changing sad, which is an adjective, to sadness, which is a noun. Word reversal, changing the order of the words. Men and women in education. Education of women and men. Changing the order, still the same meaning. Passive and active use. The chart shows. Now we could say the chart shows this, or we could say this is shown in the chart. So that becomes passive. Change the tense. In the title it says if they were studying. We could also say if they studied. Past simple, past continuous. Synonyms, of course. Example here, men changing to males. And then of course paraphrasing, which is the general meaning of what we're doing. But an expression is the number of the figures for. Again, same meaning, but instead of a synonym is a single word. A paraphrase is a group of words together. So that's really the difference. So now we looked at the different methods for paraphrasing. We're going to break the title down into chunks. So I've color coded the title so you can see all the different chunks. The chart below shows the number of men and women in further education in Britain in 3 periods, and whether they were studying full or part-time. So that's the full title. So the easiest way we can do it is change each individual chunk. You have to play around a little bit with the grammar, but essentially you're just taking each chunk and changing it. For those of you whose level is not so high, I think this is a better thing for you to do. So let's look at the way we can change some of these things. The chart below gives, displays information about. So we can change the verb, or we can even use a noun. Yes? Okay, the next one. The number of. We can say the amount of, the figures for, the data for, and other things similar. So we're changing the expression by use of paraphrase. Men and women, males and females, male and female students, both genders, students of both genders. So we're changing the nouns here. In further education, again, education we're not going to bother changing because we don't really need to. In higher or tertiary education, we're changing the adjective, higher, tertiary. In Britain, we could say in Great Britain, we could say in the UK. As I said before, the UK and Great Britain are slightly different, but I think, for me personally, I think for an essay, I think it would be okay. So we're changing the nouns. In 3 periods, over 3 different years, in 3 time spans, changing the expression. So, whether, we don't use and because we ignore the conjunctions and prepositions. Whether, we change whether to if. In this situation, we can use both. Changing the adverb. They were studying. If they were studying, if they studied, yes? And then here we can also change it slightly to say if they were part-time or full-time students. So this goes together with this. Okay, so we're adding the noun students. If they were part-time or students, part-time or full-time students, or if they were studying part-time or full-time, or if they studied part-time or full-time. So you've got choices there. So putting all these things together, joining all of the chunks together, we get a paraphrased version of the title. The meaning must remain the same. Vitally important. So I've given you 3 different versions and underlined the things that we've really focused on. So the chart below displays information about the amounts of male and female students in tertiary education in Great Britain over 3 different years, and if they studied part-time or full-time. The second one, the chart below provides data regarding the number of both genders in higher education in the UK over 3 one-year periods, and if they were full or part-time students. The chart below gives figures for males and females in higher education in Britain over 3 time spans and states whether they were studying full or part-time. So here, instead of saying full-time and part-time, we've just removed full or part. We've just used these adjectives to describe the time. So we can also do that. There are many different ways. There are other ways, not many, sorry. There are other ways that you can paraphrase. If you find words that you think you can use in there, check them to make sure that they can be used correctly. So there are other expressions, words and ways that you can do it. These are just simple ones that I've given you to help you. Remember, you must also practice these things. Don't just do it once. Do it several times to make sure that you can do it kind of automatically. Okay, so as I've just explained, the final 3 results are paraphrase titles using a mixture of vocabulary, word formation, changed expressions and changed tenses. In the exam, for task 1, you only have 5 minutes to plan your essay, so don't waste too much time on the title. If you can't think of a way to change something, go on to the next word. Only spend between 1 and 2 minutes on this. But it's essential to practice this to increase your speed and efficiency at paraphrasing. Now, for the scoring of the exam, it's better to try and change as much as you can. But if you're not at that level, remember, always work to your level. If you try going way above your level, you'll make too many mistakes and it could affect your score. Keep words you find too difficult to change and use methods that you know. Okay? Alternatively, you can practice this method using different titles until you feel comfortable. And you should only attempt what you know you can do. Don't try anything new in the exam. Everything you do in the exam, you should have already practiced. Okay, so that's the end of this video. And if you have any questions or comments or anything you'd like to discuss or advice you'd like, then please let me know. And thank you for your time.